Welcome back to Health Hub, brought to you by Oliver Chiropractic Wellness Clinic. Ready to ditch that afternoon slump?
Oh, yeah.
Today's deep dive is all about practical ways to boost your energy, and we're taking our cues straight from the expert Dr. Kent Ferguson
Okay.
in his blog post,
Right.
4 Ways to Gain More Energy.
I'm excited to dig into this one. Dr. Ferguson has a knack for taking what we think we know about health and flipping the script, don't you think?
Totally. We all know staying hydrated is important,
Mm-hmm.
but his take on why it impacts our energy is fascinating.
Mm,
He explains that even mild dehydration can make our bodies work harder, like a car sputtering on fumes.
exactly. Our cells need water for literally every function,
Right.
from carrying nutrients to regulating temperature.
Yeah.
Dr. Ferguson points out that when we're even slightly dehydrated, our blood volume drops, making our heart pump harder to deliver oxygen. Talk about an energy drain.
It suddenly makes those mid-afternoon energy slumps feel a lot more explainable. Instead of just saying drink more, Dr. Ferguson actually breaks down how to make it a habit,
Right.
which I appreciate.
Yeah.
He suggests a gradual approach, right?
Yes. He calls it hydration hacking, which I love.
Okay.
Instead of overwhelming your system with a sudden influx of water, he recommends increasing your intake by just a cup or two each day. This gives your body time to adjust so you're not constantly running to the bathroom.
That's such a game changer. I've definitely been guilty of trying to chug water all at once, and it's just not sustainable. What I found most interesting, though, was his point about electrolytes.
Ah, that's crucial. He actually argues that sometimes when we feel fatigued and reach for water, it might be an electrolyte imbalance masquerading as dehydration.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the water, it's about what's in the water that can make a difference.
Exactly. He suggests incorporating electrolyte-rich drinks, especially after workouts or when you're feeling drained. It's about replenishing those essential minerals that help regulate our energy levels.
Okay, so we're hydrating smarter, not just harder. Speaking of energy, Dr. Ferguson's next point tackles food, and I'm really curious to hear your take on this one.
Ah, yes, the food-energy connection.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ferguson doesn't disappoint here.
Right.
He goes beyond the usual
Yeah.
eat your vegetables advice and dives into the why behind those recommendations.
And why is so important. It's one thing to know that processed foods can make you sluggish,
Right.
but Dr. Ferguson explains it is the rapid blood sugar spikes and crashes they cause that really drain our energy reserves.
Precisely. He compares it to throwing kindling on a fire. You get a quick burst of flame,
Right.
but then it fizzles out just as fast. He argues that sustained energy comes from foods that release glucose slowly and steadily, like complex carbs, healthy fats, and lean protein.
Which brings us to meal prepping, something I'll confess I've always been a bit intimidated by.
Okay. But Dr. Ferguson makes a compelling case for how it can actually save us energy in more ways than one.
Absolutely. He frames it as a way to outsmart our future selves. When we're tired, stressed, and short on time, we're far more likely to make unhealthy food choices.
Oh, 100%. That's when the drive-thru starts looking really good.
Right. But when we've got healthy meals prepped and ready to go,
Yeah.
we're not just saving time and energy on cooking, we're also preventing those energy-zapping blood sugar roller coasters that come with less nutritious choices.
It's like he's giving us permission to prioritize our well-being, even when life gets chaotic. One thing that really resonated with me was his emphasis on enjoying the process.
Yeah,
He even suggests putting on some music and making meal prep a mindful ritual.
I love that. It shouldn't feel like another chore on our to-do list.
Right.
He also offers some really practical tips,
Yeah.
like doubling up recipes and freezing portions so we're not cooking from scratch every single night. Okay, that's a game changer. I'm feeling inspired to give meal prepping another shot. Now let's talk about something I know we both prioritize: sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ferguson's approach to this one really surprised me.
Me too. He doesn't buy into the 8 hours or bust mentality that we often hear.
Which honestly can feel so defeating, especially when life inevitably gets in the way.
Exactly. Instead, he encourages us to think about sleep in terms of our average over time. Some nights might be shorter, some might be longer,
Right.
but as long as we're generally within that 7 to 9 hour window, our bodies can handle it.
And he backs this up by explaining what's actually happening in our brains and bodies while we sleep.
Yes. He talks about how sleep is when our nervous system finally gets a chance to downshift and repair. He uses this great analogy of a smartphone. If we're constantly using it, the battery drains faster and it doesn't function as well.
Oh, that makes so much sense. We need to give our brains and bodies that downtime to recharge and reset. And Dr. Ferguson doesn't just stop at the why of sleep. He offers some really intriguing strategies for improving our sleep quality, too.
He does. And they're not the usual no screens before bed tips, though. Those are important. Of course, Dr. Ferguson delves into things like sleep temperature light exposure and even the importance of a consistent sleep schedule even on weekends.
See, this is what I love about his approach. It's holistic. He's not just addressing one aspect of our health in isolation. He's connecting the dots between sleep, nutrition, hydration, and even our mental and emotional well-being.
Absolutely. And speaking of holistic health, that brings us to his final point, exercise. I have a feeling you're going to appreciate his perspective on this one.
Okay, hit me with it. I have to admit the E word doesn't always spark joy for me.
But Dr. Ferguson reframes exercise not as a chore, but as a celebration of what our bodies can do. He challenges the notion that we have to push ourselves to the limit every workout to see results.
Okay, that's refreshing. Sometimes it feels like the fitness world is all about no pain, no gain, which can be so discouraging, especially for those of us who are just starting out or getting back into a routine.
Exactly. Dr. Ferguson emphasizes finding activities we genuinely enjoy and that fit into our lives, not the other way around. He even argues that sometimes a brisk walk in nature or a fun dance class can be just as beneficial as a grueling gym session.
That's music to my ears. I've always been a big believer in finding movement that feels good, but it's so validating to hear it from a health professional.
Right. And he doesn't just leave us hanging with vague advice. He lays out 4 clear guidelines for making exercise sustainable and effective.
Okay, remind me what those were. I need all the help I can get in that department.
So first up is balance. He stresses the importance of working different muscle groups and varying our routines to prevent overuse injuries and keep things interesting.
Makes sense. Variety is key, both in life and in our workouts, it seems.
Absolutely. Second, he emphasizes proper form. It's not just about going through the motions, it's about engaging the right muscles and protecting our bodies from injury.
That's huge. I'm definitely guilty of prioritizing speed over form sometimes.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Third, he talks about progressively challenging ourselves. This doesn't necessarily mean lifting heavier weights or winning longer distances, but rather finding ways to keep our bodies guessing and adapting.
So pushing our limits, but in a safe and sustainable way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, he circles back to the most important factor of all, enjoyment. He encourages us to choose activities that light us up, that make us want to move our bodies, not dread it.
That's a prescription I can get behind. Dr. Ferguson's insights are like a breath of fresh air. Instead of focusing on deprivation and quick fixes, he's empowering us to prioritize our well-being in a way that feels sustainable and, dare I say, enjoyable.
I completely agree. It's about tuning into our bodies, listening to what they need, and making choices that support our long-term health and vitality.
This deep dive has been a powerful reminder that small changes implemented consistently can have a huge impact on our energy levels. What resonated most with you today? Let us know, and be sure to check out Oliver Chiropractic Wellness Clinic's blog for more insightful tips from Dr. Ferguson. Until next time, stay energized.